and we are here for the after chapter discussion for chapter 10.10e of The Wandering Inn. And what a chapter it was. The first chapter on Pyrus' new writing schedule, a full 46,800 words of amazing survival action with Aaron and third best goblin Ovama, and all sorts of crazy stuff happening besides that. So, for people who aren't familiar with this, we have two different channels that are going. There's the reactions and comments channel where you can put stuff in that I'll read out loud in a reaction to what someone else is saying or to respond to one of the questions that'll be posted in there. And then any other discussion that we're doing in between can go in the live chat channel and people can just talk to each other in there. But that stuff won't be read out loud. All right. So, with that said, people can start thinking about, your overall reaction to the chapter, your basic thoughts on it, what you want to say about it. And then once you're ready to talk, go ahead and ping me in the reactions channel or just post it and I'll start reading it in between people. And at some point, I'll take a breather here and give my own thoughts on the chapter. So, we'll start off with, of course, the Mafia Hamster.
Oh my goodness. I love this chapter so much. 10 out of 10. I loved everything about it. The survival aspect, again, using your skills more efficiently, learning to use your skills more efficiently, getting finally the answers. I really thought Pirate is gonna be teasing us with the pavilion, but we got an answer right away, and it's goddamn scary. I mean, we probably don't even realize how scary it is until Pirate made it even more scarier than it is. Feederhead was the perfect person to teach Aaron to get started on that. So many theories in my head. We now know she has soul damage and has problems. I'm telling you, get better at this pavilion, Drag. What's the name of the demon? Drag him in there and get all his secrets to get help. Ovama is not.
Viso or Visofekken.
Yes. Ovama's second best goblin, by the way.
He's third on
And
my list.
and yeah, highlight obviously the big fight at the end there. Aaron versus the hamster was. I really was frightened that Pirate is gonna kill off the hamster, and I wanted to rage and already start a memorial service. But the hamster's gonna be a pet. Pirate said we need more pets, or somebody said it, and the hamster is a perfect addition. I love the chapter.
And Kel was incredibly happy that Aaron got to hug Fedorhep finally, and
Oh, true.
he finally got the hug, and there were many crying emotes of happiness there.
I forgot about that.
And next we have Mr. Europe.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying these chapters, and when the last Aaron chapter came out and we had the whole talking to statues, that was really great. And now, even though that's mostly stopped, even though Aaron still has the instinct to do it, I'm really impressed by how her characterization continues in so many other ways. And I think it's really well done. And yeah, I mean, every volume at this point kind of starts with Aaron being very sad about all the horrible, horrible things that have happened, but this still manages to feel unique to them. And I'm very impressed with the characterization of her.
Yeah, that was wild when Ovama revealed she was seeing the statues too, and then both of them thought they were just imagining them. That was a good fake out and a wonderful reveal. Red Ink Quill.
I thought this was a 10 out of 10 chapter. I loved how Erin is feeling the trauma from her whole time living in world and also learning to cry even though her family doesn't cry. I love how she's recovering. I love how we're learning in all the different ways she's broken, from her soul, her hair, her scars. I like the telepathic soul ants. I like the battle hamster. I like the beetle fighting. I think the hamster will be a pet. And I like all the new skills, although elongating hallways seems like kind of a dud. We'll see. But I loved it.
Yeah, they can't all be winners, but there were a lot of skills, and we still haven't seen them all yet. So it'll be interesting to see what else comes up. Buitso.
Yeah, I also like this chapter. I liked like everybody said, like the survivability aspect and the development. I really like the conversation between Fatohep and Eren. And finally, like Fatohep realized he has to do something by himself instead of like Kelta handing him a plan or something. Though I want more development for Ulvama. I don't think she has. Even though she's appearing a lot, I don't think she's herself like developing. She said herself she didn't use much her shamanic ability when she got into her inn, and she said also she treated like Marsha like she treats the goblin stuff, and she hasn't changed at all according to her. I mean, her thoughts, at least in the text. So I want more character development for her to. To be more actively participating in everything. Yeah, that's it.
Definitely. We definitely need more of her. I mean, getting her to look at Erin's memories and then getting to see her family members' memories was amazing. I did not expect that to be something she could pull at all. So that was really interesting, and that the system was able to pull it that way. But yeah, we need more of her for sure. A couple of things to read here. So the next one was Kel said, "Don't forget to look at Artsy's art at the end of part 2 of the chapter of the pavilion Aaron sitting there at the table with the cards," which always amazing art, definitely fantastic. Kainia says, "Fun chapters. The Pavilion of Secrets was interesting and the fight scenes were pretty wild. The only thing that left me a little puzzled was that I felt that the conversation between Aaron and Fetohep was being treated as a way to show that even the friendliest exchanges can be very hurtful. But I think it was a very beneficial conversation that they needed to have, and the more they delayed it, the more it would have hurt. I don't think it showcases the danger of the room, but maybe that was the idea." I would say it does show the danger. I mean, certainly Fetohep realized what the danger was because he learned stuff just by her being there. And she felt she had to balance the scales because of what he was gaining. So it's definitely more time to tell what the pavilion will actually do. But it's a very interesting first glance at it. And then Morrison says, "I think the time Pirate took to write this chapter shows in its quality. The scary parts were more scary, the action was more dynamic, etc. It was more on point overall." Yeah, absolutely. Being able to take their time and space out the writing of the chapter and go into it with the stuff they have in their notes, and not feel like they're immediately going to be starting the next chapter as soon as they're over has to be a big pressure off for them, for sure. So with that, if anyone has any more impressions they want to throw in the chat or ask, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to toss the first question into here, and we'll let people start thinking about their answer to that. And while we do that, I'll just give my overall thoughts on the chapter. I agree with everybody else. 10 out of 10. One of the best chapters we've seen in a while, even though I think the end of Volume 9 was a lot. I mean, this is taking us right back to the roots of the beginning of the story. Erin essentially on her own trying to survive, and then meeting up with her friend, and then them working together to survive. And it's just a crazy circumstance overall, but then there's still all these parallels you can draw back to the first volume of the story and what she was going through back then. And so for the people who aren't looking at that, the first question is, who would you want to drag into the pavilion to get their secrets? And that came from our friendly local mafia hamster. I don't even know who I would want to pull in first, much less. I mean, the answer is pull in everybody, but who to pull in first? That's a hard question. Super Bread Ninja did say the Karas, which would be. Now, the interesting question is, because it goes back in time, is which version of the Karas do you pull? Do you pull the current one? Do you pull an older one that's got more levels and more knowledge? That is an interesting can of worms to open up specifically with that individual. Tanaz mentioned Velen, which would also be an amazing pull, or any of the Goblin Kings that she could pull up. Or maybe, what's the name of the shaman that's on the Goblin Island and running the place now? Whatever her name is, that would be a good poll as well. And then Mr. Europe, what do you got?
Well, the first obvious answer for Aaron is to pull a Neri, see if that works, for obvious reasons. But the second thing I would say would be to pull over Visofison, because while Koros may be a good option for all the secrets she has, she's also is the most likely to completely school Aaron and take all her secrets for nothing. Whereas Aaron has already shown that she can completely style on Visofison and take him for all he's worth. And then he will be more sad, and that will be funny.
That's a great reason to choose Sim. Sure. Sir Bear.
To be honest, I think some of the answers are too complicated because they got so many. Some of these people got so many secrets that you could learn anything and they would have no value for a person or a character or anything else. Like the Quaras could reveal how to make a certain class. That's a secret. Aaron doesn't know that information, and that will be completely useless to her. So honestly, I think it should be a person that it's somewhat close to Aaron. That she could grab some information out of them. Maybe one of her friend, alive or dead one, maybe Pisces, which got many secret and won't try to manipulate to give a useless one to Aaron because it's Pisces. He like Aaron too much. There's probably say yeah, which probably know some stuff. Years will be a choice, but you know, could maybe manipulate Aaron as Aaron tried to manipulate Ryoko a bit recently. It's a complicated answer because I don't feel there's a good current answer in this situation. The person we most likely think about or got so many secret that it's worthless, or the other person are not good enough to not good enough and maybe not important enough to be in the pavilion that you should not ask them that stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's a real answer to that one.
Yeah. I think the real answer is going to be, who does Pirate want to show us next? And that will be the fun for us is just having to wait and see what they choose. So a bunch of answers in the chat here. So let me see what we got. So Bleachsoul mentioned Otheus the Force, which was a very interesting first example that was given to Aaron when she was there. And I do like how Aaron realized right away the potential of going after not the big important person, but like the people around them. Because if she went after that prince or the princess that was, you know, the one that Tom kept talking to and made the dare to, I think, you know, she'd probably have some pretty good chances uh, of getting information out of her that she probably wouldn't get with Osius. Morchan suggested Iskenius. Iskanus? I still don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't know how likely that is, but I mean, it'd be cool if that was somehow somebody she could pull. Tavares says Terry Arch, like Fedorep, he's relatively friendly. However, he probably knows as much or more of the world as anyone else. And just revealing the pavilion puts him in Aaron's debt because Shedda kept it a secret from him. Now that's interesting. I wonder if the pavilion would interpret knowledge of the pavilion as being the first secret that Aaron gives them, and it puts her like in that negative balance scenario right at the get-go. Kind of like how when the copy of Fedorep showed up, it knew all the rules, even more of those than she did, and it knew the price that it would have to pay to answer secrets from her. Kiney posted something from the chapter comments. It was about Nerishal was an interesting choice. It'd be a good way to communicate what happened with his future self in a way that left no room for doubt and get information from rear. Which then puts up an interesting question is, can she pull the future self version? Or does she have to pull the current living one? Because that's a whole nother ballpark at that point. Kel said, I wonder if she can pull in a rule breaker like Ryoka or even Neri. I wonder if the pavilion telling the receiver the rules is an automatic counter to the existence of the pavilion itself. Both good questions. Tavar said Aaron should bring in the grand design itself at some point to reveal gods to it in exchange for something. Well, the grand design knows the gods are there, kind of in the abstract. It just can't name them in certain ways. It's not quite like Ryoka, where it had to make a fake name for her to assign information about it, because you can only see it in passing. So similar but different. Red Ink Quill says, I think she should use it to convey information to her allies secretly. Also the Time Mage in the Blighted Kingdom. And Mr. Europe says she can't pull future Narishal because much like the ghost, he got eaten. Right, that's a good point, because that was the one that showed up in the Deadlands, and he fought to the death a second time. Tanaz says she showed Terry the messages in the void, so he should know that the pavilion exists, but not what it does. Did she bring Terry into the corridor and show him what was on the door? Because we know she hadn't opened it at that point, but
Yes, and he was very sad that Sheeta had not told him about that.
yeah. So he still has no idea what it does or how it works, obviously, because he'd never seen it himself.
I think he specifically asked Erin if she found out what was back there, if she would tell him, and I think she said yes.
Oh, that'd be an interesting conversation for sure.
Somebody will probably find the quote before the meeting is done.
I kind of want to know if she can pull people from hell, like if she can actually get those souls to show up and talk to their copies. Because if she could pull in from hell, could she pull in from Deotria and pull in the Dragon Lord of Waves, whose name I can't pronounce, and talk to that person? Because they certainly have known some things from living with all those heroes and the TWI version of the Elysium Fields. Surveyor found a quote. Okay, so this is the quote from when Terry saw the door from Aaron. Okay, so secrets, fate, at the end of it, she accomplished deeds that put Dragon Lord to shame. Was this how? It weighed on her. She seemed aged 100 years by the time, and then it gets cut off, so you don't know what lies beyond. Teriak shook his head. He looked at Aaron. No, but I would like to. If there is a key, it must lie in your levels. Please, will you let me see what she hid until that end? He pleaded, and she just nodded. I will tell you. Do you know the other gardens? And then they went on from there. So he wants to go in. I mean, it's going to be painful for both of them. But I think that would be fascinating to see him in there and what his reaction is to that place. So looking at the rest of the questions here, a couple of them are kind of similar. They're about Erin's skills and what she showed us. So I'm going to put a couple of these in here at the same time. So the first one is actually what I asked is Erin used a body skill. So completely unrelated to her innkeeper class. And it was body fire breath. And we have no idea what class or maybe another skill gave her that. And then we saw a couple of her other weird skills, like long hallways and room of the traveler, that we don't really know what they do yet. Though I guess we did see long hallways in use. I mean, she used it to make her legs armor, her arms longer. I don't know how much other utility it really has or what purpose it would have in the inn. Uh, and Mr. Europe, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, the fire breath is a weird one. It could come from warrior, I guess, or witch. Since witch has several weird magic skills and connected to fire a bit, so it really really depends. We don't actually know what her new witch class is, do we?
Yes, we do. It's the Witch of Remorse.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know, but the long hallway is actually something that's very interesting because the question is how it works. Does it make presumably the long hallways are bigger on the inside? So what would happen if how does that actually work? If you make a long hallway, does that make between two rooms? Does that mean if you make a hole between those two rooms, is that if you have a 2 inches corridor and you make that very long, could you then make a 2 inch hole through the walls? How does that work? How does the space bend around and all that? At the very least, what I thought, which would make the skill invaluable, is it would make a lot of space between the rooms, which would be great for sound insulation. And I would very much like that in my apartment block.
I see what you mean. So it would air gap all the rooms by creating some kind of void space around it.
Exactly.
That would be interesting. Yeah, it's an odd one for sure. And then did you have any thoughts on Room of the Traveler?
I assumed it would be the way I picture it is it's going to be like a mini replacement for the Gardens of Sanctuary. Instead of having the different fancy, since she got rid of all the rooms, she's now going to have one room that can be a jungle or a beach or whatever. So she still has that functionality, but just less powerful. As long as she has to go to those places first.
Ah. And next we have Red Ink.
So I think in long hallways means that it's kind of a spatial expansions skill. So maybe it's first in a series, or maybe it allows you to fit in more rooms into a limited space. So if the hallways are longer, that means you could fit in more rooms. I'm just guessing. Or maybe she'll get more skills which would do like a spatial expansion. She already has the World's Eye Theater, or Grand Theater was the original one. That was spatial expansion. Maybe it'll just allow her to fit more rooms into a limited space. In Room of the Traveler, I think all she needs is a door, and then she can open it to a room that's always hers no matter where she goes. You know what I mean? Because she doesn't have a door, she didn't have a door in the woods, she couldn't do it. But as long as maybe she had a doorknob or a door, she can open it, and then she has her own room that's hers no matter where she goes. And I thought initially that Aaron Body Fire Breath was her using aspect of the inn with memory flame, but someone told me that was wrong. But I don't know. What do you think about what I said?
If it was a combination of two existing skills, it wouldn't have been named like that, because it was very specific that it was said like a skill, and it was a body skill specifically, which is interesting.
Yeah.
My thought was that maybe she finally got the Dragon Friend class that she was supposed to earn.
Oh,
back at the end
yeah.
of Volume 8.
Maybe.
But
what about the in-long hallways? Do you think it's a spatial expansion skill for fitting in more rooms?
it makes sense. I mean, she definitely has other spatial skills like that, so it makes sense to have another one that lets her have more space inside the inn. The Room of the Traveler seems like it's something that'll benefit the people that are still at the inn, because she set it up and then she was moving its location around. But we didn't actually get to see what it does yet. Maybe the next time we get a Lionette chapter, that'll come up. And next we have Sir Bear.
At first, I refused to believe that Body Fire Breath was a skin that Erin got. I just checked the code to be sure, and it was said in narration, so she got that skill. I thought it was Erin lying because Erin used Fire Breath before. She used in I don't remember the exact chapter. I think it's 9.11, where she used it in her bed with Glorifier and Fail. She used it in the Night of Blood Tear. So I was like, why did she learn it? Did she obtain the skill? Did she learn it? I don't know which class would have gotten that one. Maybe people theorize she even has got an Infernal Dancer because she danced to get to the Lucifer room. Following on way, obviously, I think people guess the first benefit for Erin in her with the with the murder corridor, the trap corridor, with the crossbow, the acid jar, and all of that. Imagine making that always longer, and making people travel long a longest amount of time to reach the inside of the inn, and they have more chance to be killed in that hallway.
Oh, that's a good point. She has originally had a trapped hallway, and now being able to make it crazy long, it's going to be a really good murder hallway.
Yeah, but and for a normal benefit of a normal hallway, because not every building got a trap always. A long hallways can be useful for decoration, for you put some furniture there, or painting on the wall or something like that. It can be useful to show off some art, and all of that. So I guess it would be a benefit for a museum type of thing, or a mansion or something like that. And Wolves of Traveler, I got no idea for that one. Absolutely zero idea.
Yeah, I was trying to think of who we know. Doesn't Wur have a Traveler class? Is like a world-weary traveler or something like that. I'm pretty sure his class has traveler in the name. So I was thinking maybe it's possibly related to something like being able to enter the crossroads or some other type of traveling specialty that would be related to that class.
I think Inkar also has like a worldly traveler class.
And yeah,
Inkar is a traveler. Yes. Yeah. So maybe something related to what those classes have, like being able to. I think some other people have mentioned something similar, like getting items from people who traveled there. Actually, Kel, you're the one who mentioned that. So Kel said Aaron's totally going to use the long hallways aspect just to creep people out. The inn itself, first thing he thought of was that in case of attack, imagining the kill zone corridor becoming so much longer to give defenders more time to prepare. And then Room of Travelers will be where she stores all of her tourist knickknacks. The problem being that Aaron's idea of souvenirs will probably be some combination of stupid, useless things and a ridiculously powerful artifact that she forgets about for a volume and a half. It's very on brand for Aaron. Tina says, I wish there was mention of her witch and dancer leveled up and what she may have gained from them. I mean, we know the name of the witch class, which was amazing. The sequence where she really unlocked her craft again and had the hat just kind of descend from the sky like raining fire was incredible. And I was almost crying for real reading it because what a moment. But Dancer, yeah, we didn't really get anything. I think both of the skills she used so far were ones she had before the battle. I don't think they were new to this time on the beach.
I can confirm all the skills he's shown, the battle skills he's shown in before she met Malva, were skills she had before.
Yes, okay. Edoran said, I imagine it worked like the theater, which I'm assuming is in regard to the long hallways. And then Tavares says, I expect body fire breath to come from her dancer class, since that was heavily associated with the Lucifin, who have all this hellfire. We even still regularly have the melt stars from freeing herself mentioned repeatedly. Yeah, part of that I think is just Pirate pointing out that this Aaron is still beat up and still has all the scars that everyone was asking about for the first 5 chapters of the volume. Every time Aaron showed up, and they were like, "But where's her scars? What happened to her? What's up with her body?" So some of that might have just been Pirate responding to that reaction from us. And then Samu says maybe the room of the traveler is something like the pub of best moments from Lara, an event room of sorts, which would totally make sense. Like she's a high enough level innkeeper that she should have some other specialty rooms besides just the one that she uses now. No, that's not the right emote. Not putting that one on there. And then Super Bread Ninja says maybe long hallways worked with Room of the Traveler, where an extending hallway keep adding rooms based on where she travels. Oh, so she gets themed rooms based on the place that she goes. That would be an interesting fusion of what the skills can do. So next couple of questions, we're going to go back to the pavilion a little bit, and we're going to talk about Fedohep and what all happened there, because that was a major part of the end of the first part and then into the second part there. Her actually using the pavilion skill and dealing with Fedohep and getting that hug, the long-awaited hug that he so desperately deserved, the poor man. So the first question here is, how will Fedohep prepare for the Prophet, and what role will the Ursers play in that battle? Will they help introduce Kelt to faith classes? And then the other part of that is that Fedohep mentioned 4 of the horns. So he was reading a report about those 4, but he didn't know, or at least he didn't say anything about Kizimir and Rofia. But he said all of them had been located. So why do you think that information wasn't revealed to Aaron? And then if you have any other thoughts on what was discussed between the two of them, I mean, the final thing Fedohep said before he left the pavilion, and that gold text that is special to him when he's like carrying the burden of his nation on his back was pretty terrifying and epic. And it makes me so concerned for this old mummy man. And I'll just say my thought is he does know where those two are, and because of the fact that he knows, he's keeping it from Aaron because he doesn't want her to be worried about it when the other ones are already safe. And she's got enough other stuff going on right now that she doesn't have to know about it. And so first up, we have Sir Bear.
I'm sorry. No, Fedorov got a big problem because, as he straight up said, fate counters undead people, undead stuff. So he's a big disadvantage. I think how Fedorov will solve the thing. It will be by accident and in some way. It will be a callback to when Snatcher did his attack in volume 9, where if Snatcher is pretty much undead related in some way, and he fought the Crusader too, with Fate, with Aura, that. I think it'll be a callback to when Fedorep was freed from casting control with probably the fate of his people. So probably Fedorep can beat the prophet people in some way. I think it's the most likely theory, or maybe Pisces will try something since Pisces is close enough and he knows about the prophet and a bit about that information. So, but I'm willing to bet it's probably going to be a fate thing from the people of Kelt believing in Fedorep and all of that. Since basically Kelt is pretty much a religion anyway. Since everybody prays to Kelta and all of that.
It would be pretty interesting, and I think it does make sense if we say that the gold yellow text of Fedorep speaking like that is actually faith. I know it's been associated with like royal skills and stuff before, but it's also been associated with faith. And I don't know if Pirate made it like the exact same shade, but like imagine seeing a chapter where he's talking and he finally embraces that faith, and like the text just subtly changes to a different color of gold, and that's when he like levels up again and it becomes, I don't know, the divine ruler of Kelt or something like that, and becomes the first like divine undead. And I'm just spitballing here. That'd just be kind of crazy, but I could picture the story going in that direction somehow. Pirate pulling off something crazy like that with Fetterhap, because no one wants to kill him off. He's the original. He's the Giga Chad. We even have emotes for him. Kel said, I had hoped that Aaron would put Fedorep in touch with Pawn to explain faith-based classes and their potential. Fedorep developing the cult of Kelta would be an interesting counter to the Prophet. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, him having his own cult, fighting faith with faith, because they would counter level, and it would be the first like religious war in the world, whereas religion versus religion. So that would be interesting. Morton says he didn't reveal the location of Bofia and Kizimvir to Aaron because he knew Aaron would be running to them, acting all headless when she should strategize. So, yeah, because those are the only two that we think are on Balaros, right? They're not on Chandrar like the other four. So I could see it making sense that she would want to go to them. Red Ink says the conflict with the Prophet is a miscommunication because the Prophet thinks Fedorep summoned the undead that attacked everyone, and you think it will be resolved. That would be interesting too, if they actually just managed to talk it out instead of it turning into a war. But obviously he still has those other groups on his borders that are causing problems. And Mr. Europe posted the color shade chart for us to show that it is a different shade of gold from divine skills and what it looks like when Fedorep is talking. Which I don't see which color gold it is that Fedorep was using in 10.10 though.
Sorry, here's a better comparison.
Ah, okay. So yeah, he was using the royal one. slightly darker. And Superbred Ninja was asking, is Fedorhep's color the same as Lakin's when he was telling people to live? Which, yes, I think so. It's the same gold color as like what Lionette was using. Geiger says Pisces is now on Chandra. It could be he makes it so Fedorhep can level, assuming the Necromancer shares that info. Someone else mentioned that before, and Asgraf sent that letter. Like he sent it to Cognita, but he also sent one to Fedorhep. And I'm assuming he just told him everything. But now it seems like Fedorhep doesn't know why he can't level. And so maybe there is something Pisces could do to work with him to actually get him to level again, which would be very interesting to see happen. Well, we know Asgraf sent a letter to Fedorhep. I mean, yes, we don't know what the full details are, but he didn't seem surprised by what was on the letter. That's been one of those mysteries that's been lingering for a few volumes. We know something was said, but not exactly what it was. There was one other pavilion question which I didn't include, but I'll throw it in now just to mention it. So the pavilion was a gazebo in the pavilion, as Aaron liked to think of it, had 8 entrances. It was octagonally shaped. So potentially that limits the number of people that could actually access the skill in the future. Or it could just be that it puts some other kind of limitation on the skill, or it's just because it's shaped like a pavilion. That's why it has 8 entrances. But there's only a few doors in there so far, with hers being the newest door. And then, so there were a few animal questions, which I think we can just kind of lump them together, because there's 3 different animals we need to talk about in this chapter for somewhat different reasons. So obviously, first, there's everybody's favorite, the new best boy, the greatest champion we've ever seen, the battle hamster. Then there's also the beetle that just wanted to fight everybody, the big guy who Aaron spent an entire hour fighting and somehow still didn't manage to beat, the Corumdon beetle, which, as other people were saying, there is a metal called corundum, which is a reddish metal. And so now we don't know if Pirate is just messing with us by spelling it differently, or if it was just a legitimate typo in the chapter. But it's been immortalized for now. And then, of course, the final animal that we have to talk about, because it was just kind of insane, was the ant queen, was the magical ant flock. So 3 different things to talk about. Obviously, Battle Hamster was the best. And now it's a minion for Ovama, and maybe it'll become a new in-pet that everybody gets to meet and hang out with. I know several people apparently convinced Pirate that maybe it was Great Ass of Blades that had been transformed by the polygraph spell into a hamster, which would have been amazing. Hamdath, Lord of Bats. But we'll have to see. And the Ant Queen, there's a lot to talk about with the Ant Queen, because Erin's got a hole in her soul, or at least she has a crack on the edges of it, from when she had part of her soul ripped out for a deal with a literal devil and then shoved back in because they broke the deal. So that's a bit of a problem for her. But whatever happened when that Ant Queen showed up and was like touching her soul, and then her soul started changing to look like an ant, and then Ovama flew in on the back of her B-50 Beetle and just dive bombed everybody to stop that from happening. So Geiger brings up an interesting question. Was the Ant Queen tech color the same as the Twisted Queen? And my question was, I wasn't sure if that was the ant talking or Aaron. Because it was that same kind of dark plum purple color that I didn't really know what it was supposed to be. And Surveyor says, for the Ant Queen, I think the answer is simple. Aura is the soul leaking. Ant Queen saw a big buffet and wanted it. That's a good point. The aura and the soul are linked, and we've seen aura described as the soul just kind of leaking out of a body. And Aaron's aura has become quite feral now, it seems like, from Obama's reaction to it, which was intense for sure. And Mr. Europe, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I thought like the whole color thing was from like a Lucifin thing. Like she started dancing with flames going around her. I thought that she was starting the Lucifin thing again, and that's why she had like the color thing came from her words, from Aaron's words. But the the Antinium doing this whole soul thing is actually very interesting because we now have the Antinium or the ants using soul magic, having different forms with different magical properties and stuff like that. Just seemingly normal magical ants. And that makes me think that the Antinium aren't actually that much more advanced, except in intelligence and size, than ants. Maybe ants are just naturally super powerful creatures in world once they get exposed to some magic. And it's just their natural abilities. Sleepy didn't do much to them at all. But yeah, the all of these weird magical creatures across Balros just makes me wonder how anyone survives there.
Yeah. Yeah, the magic in the ants is weird. The magic in the Antiniums is weird. And the stuff they're doing with the souls in their bodies and switching stuff around um, is bizarre. I did just take a look at the color charts, by the way. It looks like the Twisted Queen is more of a brown color, so it's not this kind of like dark wine red purple color that Aaron was doing. That seems to be, as far as I can tell, a unique color that we haven't seen before. And I do think it was Aaron that said it. I don't think it was the queen ant verbalizing in some way. And I also do think she was trying to do the Lucifin ritual again, because I went back and I looked at 9.68, and it was the very similar setup. She was dancing, she was bleeding from her eyes, and she was covered in flames and blood. I mean, that was like 2 seconds away from her summoning a Lucifin and doing another quick little soul pact.
I suspect that it's some sort of dancer skill that she got as a consequence of all the Lucifin stuff, and that it's a different, like, dance ritual thing.
Oh, she could have gotten a new ritual as part of her level up. That's a good point.
Yeah,
It could
because
be
we
something
haven't
else.
seen any of her new dancer levels. If she had a class change, which probably did, and
Yeah, she could
except
be
for
some
like
kind
the
of hell dancer.
body, except for some kind of the body flame breath thing, we haven't seen any of the new dancer skills. I don't think.
Yeah, and we don't even know that that's from the dancing class. It's just because it's a body skill. So that's a good point. Morton says, if the battle hamster is Great S, is the beetle Kismvir? I mean, maybe, but what does that make Rofia? Where did she go? Maybe it's the two of them, and they got transformed into the beetle and the hamster. That doesn't really make sense, but it'd be funny if it happened. Red and Quill says, answer OP. Baueros is the Australia of in-world. Yeah, I mean, that's where the Australians from Earth ended up, and they seem to be right at home, so it just makes sense. So looking through the other questions we have, there was another one about the ants and how these guys seem to have specialized bodies, but also telepathy again, and some kind of soul magic, or at least aura to manipulate the soul. And it was doing something with Aaron's soul. It wanted it for whatever reason. There were a couple questions about the inn. You know, what happened to Ishker when he got booned by Aaron? Because he just got, a random goblin boon in the middle of the day as soon as he popped up at work. So that must have been an exciting time for him. And one has to wonder what you would get from a shaman of the old ways.
I wonder if he got some sort of memory thing.
That's what I'm thinking too. Who he could use it on or what it would do. But I mean, it would make sense for him to get something from that class.
Mr.
Maybe he
Yura.
started painting himself. Maybe he grew boobs. I mean, his girlfriend probably wouldn't mind. She's pretty chill. And we know they've been dating hardcore for over a month now, since the solstice. Which I'm just so excited to get another in chapter or another Salas chapter. Both would make me happy. I wonder if Ishka does think that now. Mystical Pie said it's hard to know what Ishka thinks since he's under the impression Aaron is with Niers right now. And I wonder if he does still think that with the boon from Obama, because Obama is not with Aaron.
I
So
think Ishker, out of all of them, is smart enough to
yeah,
figure that one out.
I think he would draw a connection there between the fact that that boon is being used and the fact that she's not in the public eye. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Geiger says, I cannot go back to the inn and see the wild shenanigans chaos Aaron just flippantly caused. Or cannot wait to go back to the inn. Yeah, that would be good. On a related Aaron Obama note, somebody asked if they would be an OTP, a one true pair, between Obama and Aaron. And you have to admit, these kind of tender moments they're having, it does kind of fit into that relationship dynamic where it could possibly happen. But personally, I don't think Aaron would want to end up in a relationship with anyone, much less Obama. But I could totally see the potential is being laid out for us to feast upon and argue about forever. And then Sir Bear.
I just want to go back on the Easter thing. What you will do with the boon? It's a bit weird because on the timeline, and there's two Aaron. There's the Aaron we follow with Malva, and there's not Aaron that were with Thrilling, and is now with there. But timeline wise, when Aaron sent the boon to Isker, not Aaron was being ill by by the Thrilling. She didn't exit Pat yet. She didn't talk with with really anyone yet. So
So Aaron was at sea for 28 days. Is by her count.
yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt just for a second to maybe save some time. I just want people to be aware that one of the typo murderers that does the editing and stuff that helps Pirate out is specifically tasked with timeline stuff. So they've been paying attention to this and making sure that things line up.
So it does line up with the other Aaron.
I wonder who that person is, because on the stream it was planned that the chapter was supposed to be 19 day, so maybe there was not time to fix it, or maybe it's a mess, or.
I just assumed the timelines lined up and they made sense without ever bothering to do the math to double check it, because it's Pirate the best thing to do with the
Naive
timeline is just assume it works.
Yes, that's the kindest way to look at it, but even Pirate is aware of their own difficulty with numbers and timelines and distances. Anything number related, really. But I do very much trust the person who deals with the timeline stuff.
I wonder who does that.
They're
Because I
very
want to
happy
talk to
remain
them.
anonymous, I'm sure. Exactly why they're happy to remain anonymous. Mr. Europe did say Darren, or at least the other Aaron, since technically we don't know, arrived same time as Obama at least, and has been in Belarus for weeks. So yeah, that does make sense. I mean, she spent, and I didn't realize what was going on with Plank 1 until after she met up with Obama, that she was on a magical plank that was directly carrying her to shore, and she blew it up, and that's why it took her so long to get there, was hilarious. It's such an Aaron thing to do, to just blow up your reliable magical transportation and still somehow luckily manage to make it back to shore. Yes, yeah, exactly. Asteria said that, to be fair, the Horns did that too. And that's exactly what Pisces did, is they lost the good ship that they had that was enchanted to get them there because they had an idea that would have been better. And it took them longer to show up, and then they were half dead by the time they got to shore. A fact that Kolth, I'm sure, will not let Pisces live down for a long time. And then the one last question that I had that came up right at the very end of the chapter is that Erin realized that she could use the pavilion to find somebody to help her, somebody nearby. And conveniently enough, that person is a frailing that lives in some kind of swamp village or near the swamp, because they were planning to go out on an expedition to rescue her and Obama. And my first thought was to go back and wonder if this village is somehow related to Nears, if it was the village he came from or people he's related to that live in this village. And the reason I thought that is because some of his old titles that he had was the Titan of Swamps and the Marsh Parter, or something along those lines. I may be transliterating some of his titles, but they implied that he spent a lot of time in swamps and marshes in particular. And the fact that this is where Erin has now ended up makes me think that she's going to meet like his family, which would be hilarious to have his family meet the real Erin before he does. So with that, I think we've basically gone through every question that was on the list that people suggested. It's quite a chapter. We've been talking for about an hour now. If anybody has any wrap-up thoughts or last things they wanted to say about the chapter, go ahead and throw in a reaction or a comment now for us to read. Or otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode.
I just want to say I'm very glad that Erin has finally realized and admitted out loud that she's not okay.
Super not okay.
That is the first step to getting help.
And yes, Sahelius, it was the drowned elf marsh, I believe is what they called it. And Red Ink says, what price did Aaron pay to find a swamp frailing? That is something we're going to have to find out next time, for sure. What a cliffhanger. Pirate's just like, oh yeah, by the way, she did another deal, but you don't get to find out what it is yet. This is exactly why Pirate said at the end of part 1, you might want to save part 2 for later. But of course, none of us could do that. All right, so with that, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you everyone for participating today in Chapter 10.10e of the Wandering Inn after chapter discussion. You've all been lovely, and I will talk to you all later.